What's up, beautiful people? Today we're going to be checking out after shameful Clinton claim, Jim Jordan Rex Pelosi. Let's get to it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Rosen, 4 years ago on January 6, 2017, was it appropriate for Democrats to object to the 2016 presidential election results?
Congressman, I think the things that are appropriate or inappropriate for Congress to do are that all members, of course, and all the rest of us have to adhere to the Constitution. And so I'm going to say that that's an issue for you as members of Congress to assess.
Well, you're former acting attorney general. We appreciate your service to the country. I'm just asking, was it okay for them to? They've told us we're not allowed to object. We weren't allowed to object on January 6, 2021. In fact, you're not even allowed to co-sponsor legislation that Democrats introduced if you did object to accepting and counting the electors on January 6, 2021. I'm just wanting your thoughts on, was it okay for Democrats to do that on January 6, 2017?
What I would hope is people of all parties, all political perspectives, would respect the Constitution, our system of government, and the rule of law.
And does the Constitution allow members to object to the Electoral College results on January 6 after a presidential election?
My understanding is that it does.
It does, right. And Democrats did it. I mean, we had Jim McGovern, the Democrat chairman of the Rules Committee. He objected to the very first state called. He objected to Alabama back on January 6, 2017. State President Trump won by 30 points. Mr. Raskin objected to Florida. Mrs. Waters objected to Wyoming, maybe the only state that President Trump won by more than he won Alabama. She objected to Wyoming. And you're saying that was okay for Democrats to do? Mr. Rosen, that was fine?
Oh, I'm sorry, Congress. I didn't understand if you were asking me to respond to that. Again, I mean, I think
is it okay for Jim McGovern, the Democrat member of Congress, to object to Alabama on January 6, 2017? Is that all right? He's allowed to do that, right?
I think if members are adhering to their constitutional rights and roles and responsibilities, that's, again, a question for all the folks in Congress.
And Ms. Waters can object to Wyoming, even though President Trump. And Ms. Waters can object to Wyoming, even though President Trump won Wyoming by like 40 points. She can object to that if she wants to, right?
Well, at least the Constitution allows members of Congress to raise objections.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of talk from the Democrats about revisionist history and the big lie. I just think it's important that we've had Democrat members of Congress tell us that we weren't allowed to object. That somehow we were trying to overturn the will of the American people, even though we objected to states like Pennsylvania, for example, where they, I believe, in an unconstitutional fashion, changed their election laws in the run-up to the election. But somehow they're allowed to object to Alabama, they're allowed to object to Wyoming, they're allowed to object to Florida, but we're not allowed to object. I fail to see the logic there. How about the previous gentleman from Virginia talked about brutality, talked about safety. I just want to read you a couple statements here. Well, no, let me ask you this question first. Was the 2016 election stolen?
I do not know of evidence that would say it was. I think you're alluding to a troublesome thing about the legitimacy of our past elections, sometimes governors' races being called into question. And I think it's really necessary and important for all of us to find ways to restore our citizens' faith in the electoral process and in our representative system of government.
So it wasn't stolen.
Secretary Clinton said on a speaking tour, May 2019, you can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you. September 2019, she said on CBS Sunday Morning that President Trump was an illegitimate president. On October 2020, just a month before our last presidential election, she was referring to the 2016 presidential election, and she said it was stolen from her. Is she wrong?
She is wrong.
Yeah, she is wrong, because the election was valid in 2016. President Trump won. So when we talk about revisionist history that we've heard from the Democrats, when we talk about the big lie, their nominee, as recently as last October, was saying the election in 2016 was stolen. They can object to Alabama, they can object to Wyoming, they can object to states when in 2017, but we're somehow not allowed to object to anything, raise points about the 2020 election. It's not about revisionist history. It's about the double standard the Democrats want to have. That's the part that bothers me the most. And frankly, I think that's what bothers the American people the most. With that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
The gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Krishnamurthy, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Mr. Miller, you don't deny that at least 4 people died in connection with January 6th, correct?
I don't know how to answer that.
You don't.
Yes
you
or
don't,
no?
yes.
It's not that easy. It's just not that easy to
And
respond
sir,
to that.
140
What
police
for?
officers. 140 police officers were injured, right?
I don't know.
And 2 Capitol police officers later died by suicide, correct?
I don't know.
Hundreds
That's
of
what I read in the
rioters
paper.
breached the Capitol, right?
These are all true
I'm
numbers.
sorry?
Hundreds of rioters breached the Capitol on January 6th, correct?
Yes.
Now, sir, I want to highlight a paragraph in a Vanity Fair article about you from January, in that, in response to the critique that you were too slow responding to the January 6th breach, you said, quote, "I know for an absolute fact that historians are going to look and go, those people had their game together." Mr. Miller, I have a picture of January 6th and what the nation saw on TV. I can assure you these pictures of mayhem and insurrection do not suggest anyone had their game together that day. Let me turn your attention to another topic, namely Russia. You said, quote, "I have professional respect for how they do things. I kind of, like professionally, I'm like, wow, they're doing pretty well. And they're using a lot of irregular warfare concepts, information, all this stuff in a way that, like, oh, good on them." Mr. Miller, according to the ODNI, on March 10th, 2021, Russia interfered in the 2016 and 2020 elections, correct?
I didn't read that report.
On top
I'll
of
take
that,
the
Russia
report.
invaded Ukraine and annexed Crimea, right?
I am aware of that. Yes, sir, they did.
Mr. Miller, you know Vladimir Putin tried to kill his political opponent, Alexei Navalny, with a nerve agent, correct?
I don't know what that has to do with the subject of this
Mr.
hearing.
Miller, according to the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, Russia is responsible for SolarWinds, the largest cyber attack waged ever against the U.S. in our history. You're aware of that, right?
I thought I was here to discuss the unexplained delays and unanswered questions of the event of 6 January.
Sir, you said good on them with regard to Russia. Meanwhile, regarding the Department of Defense, which you headed, you told Vanity Fair, quote, "This effing place is rotten." I think your comments, Mr. Miller, about Russia and the DOD are bizarre and rotten, and I think they illustrate, unfortunately, the problems of the response on January 6th. So now let me turn to January 6th.
Okay.
On January 3rd,
I'm just interested to see how it correlates. This is just a whole loop right here. Let's see.
January 6th. On January 3rd, you informed the president that Mayor Bowser requested National Guard support. And according to page 11 of your written statement, the president said to give the mayor the support she requested, correct?
Yes.
On January 6th, according to your statement, you became aware sometime on or before 1:30 p.m. that day that the rioters breached the perimeter of the Capitol, right?
Yes.
According to a DOD-created timeline, at 1:34 p.m., Mayor Bowser called Army Secretary McCarthy to request, quote-unquote, additional forces to respond to the Capitol. According to page 8 of your statement, at 3:04 p.m., so 1.5 hours later, you authorized mobilizing the D.C. National Guard and providing these additional forces. That constituted a gap of 1.5 hours. During that 1.5-hour gap, why did you and the secretary disobey the president's order to give the mayor the support she requested?
She already had the support she requested. What's your question, sir?
Sir, she requested additional support. You see this mayhem and pictures of insurrection on January 6th? She requested additional support from you. And during that 1.5 hours, either you disobeyed an order given to you by the president to help Mayor Bowser, or the president changed his order and asked you to delay support, or you just plain froze and were indecisive while people were being injured, killed, while hundreds of rioters breached the Capitol, and a nation was traumatized. Sir, because of your actions,
There were
I will be,
8,000 badged and credentialed police officers on duty.
and
The
you weren't there.
United States
They
Armed
were-
Forces should
and
only
you
be
were
used as a
AWOL.
last
You were
resort.
AWOL, Mr. Secretary. You were AWOL. Remember,
That's
as
completely
you said
inaccurate.
before,
That's completely inaccurate.
as you said before, you have responsibility for everything. Something goes wrong, quote unquote, I own it completely, 110%. Sir, you partially own this mayhem. And that's why I'm going to ask for a DOD investigation into your actions. Thank you.
I already requested that before I left the Department of Defense.
I look forward to the report. Thank you, sir.
Gentleman's time expires. 5 minutes.
Okay, that was a good one. Some more updates from January 6th. Let me know what you guys think about that one. It's quite interesting. These hearings, I don't know if they keep all the things on record, like all the responses, they keep it on record, because I don't know how much information they're able to attain from the questionings. People don't give a lot of information. Some people straight up, like he was saying, I don't know, or some people go around in circles, barely saying yes. But talk to me about this one. Feel free to share your thoughts. Just thought I should bring some of those updates to you. That being said, is the end of this one. Smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.